We're bringing you a Pennsylvania special, Valley Forge. Let's just chat up Valley Forge a little bit so that we have a better understanding, because you know we do a lot of Civil War visits, but this I think is our first Revolutionary War visit on the trip since we've been RVing over 2 years.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so Valley Forge, it's just outside of Philadelphia. And there are two main points to remember about Valley Forge. One is that it did not actually have a battle. It was a winter encampment during the 3rd year of the Revolutionary War. So this is where Washington came with his troops and they wintered over. The reason they chose this place was because the British had actually taken over Philadelphia, which meant that the Continental Congress moved from Philly to the city of York in Pennsylvania, which is a lot farther west of here on the other side of like Lancaster, and the other side of the Susquehanna River. But so the British were in Philadelphia. He wanted to stay close enough to them to keep an eye on them and their movements, because they didn't want them certainly going anywhere closer to the Continental Congress and the city of York, but at the same time he wanted to stay far enough away so as to not engage them, because with winter coming on, they kind of wanted to rest for the winter. So he chose Valley Forge, and well, I don't know that he necessarily did, but Valley Forge was chosen. And you can see behind me actually Washington's headquarters. So that's the first thing to keep in mind about Valley Forge, that it was a winter headquarters, an overwinter area for the troops. The second thing is what kind of gives Valley Forge a little bit more of a claim to fame is the fact that once it hit springtime, then the army had a man by the name of von Steuben, and he was a Prussian, and so he fought in the 7 Years' War. And what he brought to the Continental Army is that he kind of knew how to fight more professionally. He gained his own knowledge from being a part of the Prussian army that was much more progressive, much more well-rounded. So he brought all of those things here to Valley Forge, and in the spring they implemented them here at Valley Forge and really brought the Continental Army together. Prior to that, they'd really been, they had different drills. They did kind of their own things. They're from different areas. They didn't have a standard, and von Steuben's the person who brought that here. And interestingly enough, because we're RVers, I just kind of think this is kind of funny, but you look at travel and you see all of the networking and the opportunities and the doors that it opens for you. So how did von Steuben get to Valley Forge and become a helper for George Washington? Well, I'll tell you, it's because he met Benjamin Franklin, and you might know that Benjamin Franklin spent some time in Paris, and he was really active in trying to gain support for the American Revolution. While he went to Paris, he was really active there trying to get France to support the revolution, right? Okay, so one of the things that he did was he met von Steuben there, talked to him, got to know him, forwarded him on with a great recommendation, and he ended up here at Valley Forge to really, cement the army and bring it together, so that after, it was really kind of like a turning point, because after this point then, after Valley Forge, they wintered here, and then in June, once they left Valley Forge, they marched 9 days to Monmouth, New Jersey, and it was when they fought the British there in battle, the British withdrew. So it was a totally different army that they saw in Monmouth, New Jersey. So it's really neat. But those are the two main things to keep in mind when you're looking at Valley Forge. Although a battle didn't actually take place here, it was really, it's a critical point, in the Revolutionary War. So right behind me you can see George Washington's headquarters, and we're going to take a closer look at that. I like to imagine George Washington and his aides-de-camp, coming out of the building and just sending off letters. And I mean, it's really fascinating. That's the actual building. This is not a reconstruction. That is the original building. The furniture is reconstructed, for the time period, but that is the original building. So George Washington walked these grounds, he worked in that building and slept in that building.
into the kitchen, which is off the side of the house.
I love these kind of kitchen, you know, like the fires, places where you walk in them.
Oh yeah, the huge fireplace, yeah.
And then the bread
bread
oven in the
oven
back.
up top.
But man, that must have been a real
That would have been
talent.
toasty.
Yeah, and a real talent to run. Let's take a closer look at one of these log cabins that would be, you know, similar to what some of the soldiers lived in. You can see the bunk beds, if you will. Little fireplace. Man, Pennsylvania is a tough place to winter. They would have had plenty of snow. It would have been tough. It would have been tough wintering here.
Oh yeah.
Now, since they wintered over here, you can imagine that people became very, very ill, and they set up general hospitals as opposed to treating people at the camp. They sent them places, so like Bethlehem, Reading, Ephrata and Lititz are both in Lancaster County, and Yellow Springs. That's where they sent them to the general hospitals. And it was said that I believe 2,000 men died over the winter, and most of them they actually passed at those hospitals, not at the camp. 2,000 men dying may not sound like a lot, but when they started this winter here in 1777, there were only 12,000 men in the army. By the end of the winter, the numbers had cut down to 6,000. That was due to illness, due to sickness, but also due to some of the enlistments had just ended. So that happened over the winter. It was really cut in half from 12,000 to 6,000. And then as spring rolled around, some of the soldiers who did not winter with them but wintered in other places came back to the main army, and then they also had a lot more new enlistments, and so by springtime they were up to 20,000 men. And of course, as always, that you understand about General George Washington at the time, that he was so very well respected by his men that they dealt with these harsh conditions because, you know, out of real commitment to him as their general, and then also commitment to the cause. And so he did not actually take any salary for his work as commander-in-chief here during the Revolutionary War. And then he also, like I said, he was just so well known and respected by his men, and just loved by his men. So that's a little bit more of what happened here at Valley Forge. And this is really just a really lovely park. I mean, how many miles do you think it is, Chris? It has beautiful
I think it's
country.
About 2 miles across. So
2 miles across.
We did all the trails looping all the way around.
And it's like circular. You know, there's a circle to it, so you can really...
It's probably 6-7 miles all the way around.
6 or 7, okay. And they do have places where you can rent bikes, so this would be a nice place to bike. There are some hills, but it's not too bad, I don't think, for biking.
Gentle rolling hills.
Yeah, and then there's obviously driving. You can drive through the park, and there are parking lots in different areas so that you can stop. Here's a map of Valley Forge National Historic Park, and you can see down here is Route 76, which is the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and here is the Schuylkill River. And the visitor center is right here, which is really where you want to start, and there is a video. From there, then you can drive these, some of these roads are driving, and then you can, you know, follow it around, see the different redoubts and parts. They have the little miniature of the encampment here, and then you can see some of the different statues and things. All the way over here is Washington's headquarters, so you definitely want to see that as well. And that's what the park map looks like. Hope you enjoyed this trip to Valley Forge, and it has me thinking that maybe, Chris, we should take everybody north to do a real, like, the birth of freedom tour and do Boston and see
Oh.
Paul Revere's home and
Yeah.
go to Concord and Lexington and hear the shot heard around the world and just imagine what that time period would have been like. So yes.
Sounds like a great plan to me.
All right, hopefully we'll get to take you there someday in our RV. We did that trip before, but prior to our RVing days, so it'll be new, and I would love to go back and see that again. So hope you enjoyed Valley Forge, and we'll see you next time.
Valley Forge.